Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven. We are on day 11 of Advent. My guest today is Lucid Lupus. This is the first time he's ever been on my channel, and please go show him some love. Today we have haunted house stories. Number 1. I recently moved into a new room, and things have been unexpectedly moving and strange knocking on my door. I live in the barracks, so at first I thought it was my buddies. Eventually, I approached my buddies and told them to stop knocking on my door at midnight so I can sleep. They assured me they weren't knocking, but I didn't believe them. A week ago, while I was asleep in the middle of the night, I heard my tough box lids being thrown on the floor. I woke up in a panic due to the loud noise. I turned on my lamp and saw 2 lids scattered on my floor. My first instinct was that they had slid off, but upon further thought, there was no way they could have slid across 2 other sides of the room. I started telling my friends I think my room is haunted, but they just laughed like usual. I began asking other people about my room, and one individual told me stories about the previous occupant complaining about furniture being moved around, knocking on walls, and items being thrown. This information started freaking me out even more. Despite my fears, I continued to sleep in the room until the weekend. On Saturday, I left to stay over at my girlfriend's house. When I returned the next day, my room was a mess. My coffee cup was thrown on the ground, Tide Pods were scattered on the floor, and my tough box lids were once again thrown on the floor. I immediately called my friends and we all went inside. After 10 minutes, we heard knocking on the wall. At this point, I got mad and cursed and taunted whatever was causing the disturbance. A few minutes later, it threw my pre-workout on the ground and knocked 5 times on the wall. That's when me and my 4 other friends ran out of the room. I then decided to sleep in my buddy's room. Fast forward today. I haven't been to my room in the last 3 days because we were out in the field. When I entered my room, I found my tough box lids thrown on the floor again. Both of my chairs have been moved, with one facing my bed. My coffee cup was laid on my bed. My pictures of me and my friends were moved on top of the trash can, and a rock was placed in the center of the chair facing my bed. To add to the strangeness, the wall it knocks on is now cracked. I'm at loss for what to do in this situation. Number 2. This happened a couple hours ago tonight. My grandmother and I were sitting in the living room, just hanging out and doing our own thing. I had my dog inside with us, and he was hanging out in the living room and just sniffing around. He discovered his reflection in the fake fireplace thing my nan has, and he stared at himself for a couple minutes before he started chuffing and huffing, never quite fully barking. We thought he just freaked himself out with his own reflection at first, but he wouldn't stop, and I realized that he was looking anywhere but at the fireplace. He's been in the living room dozens of times before, and he has never done this, and he seemed agitated. When he went into the center of the living room, once he started shuffling again and then jumped as if something touched him, and he ran back to me. I don't think he was barking at his reflection, considering he was starting to look around as if he was following something that was moving, often looking up as if looking at something tall. It wasn't a bug either. I've seen him happily chase and hunt bugs, but he never barks when he does so. Maybe he was seeing something we couldn't, or maybe he did freak himself out with his own reflection. It was unusual for him though. He rarely ever barks too, as he is a pretty quiet puppy, when he's not yipping at you for looking somewhere other than him. He doesn't bark at people, other dogs, or vehicles. We've had unexplained things happen in the house before over the years. We've always figured there's something in the house, but who knows? It was unusual behavior from my pupper and quite random. It went on for about an hour and a half before he finally settled. At one point, I did say something along the lines, "If there's something there, just leave my dog alone." And it stopped for a little bit, which made my grandmother and I laugh a little. It did continue again after a couple of minutes, though. Number 3. Okay, so let me start by saying that I've never really been sure in the afterlife. I'm one of those I have to see it to believe it kind of people. But my parents tell me that when I was really young, I used to see ghosts. They said at one point I got so scared I asked all the ghosts to go away until I was 30. I don't remember any of this, so I always assumed I just had a vivid imagination. Apparently it worked. They stopped showing up immediately. Well, I turned 30 last year, about 6 months into the year they came back. Well, one did. Couldn't sleep. I was just lying there awake and figured I'd get up and walk around the house a little bit. You know, when you get that feeling that someone is standing right behind you? I had it so strongly and I just assumed it must be my roommate behind me. I think I felt the floorboards move a little. That's how I knew someone was there. So I turned around fully expecting it to be my roommate. But it wasn't. It was this shadow in the shape of a person, like a person just made of darkness. They were about a foot shorter than me, and they looked pretty large in weight. I just stood there looking at them kind of dumbfounded. I remember saying, "Oh my God." And I guess they were looking at me because they paused for a moment, and then they walked around me. I turned as they walked around me and watched them head towards the stove. Once they got to the stove, they vanished into thin air. So I just can't believe this. After all these years, I finally know the truth. Ghosts are real. And maybe an afterlife is even real. You think I would be scared, but I honestly was really excited. Kind of want to see more of them, and I hope they show up again soon. I guess I've always been a bit of a weirdo. That way, I've never been afraid of the dark or typical things that other people are afraid of. I wonder if I'm supposed to be a medium or something. Does anyone have any tips on how to pursue and strengthen my abilities? Also, has anyone else seen one? Did they look like a shadow person to you? Edit. The night that the apparition showed up, I had turned on all the lights downstairs, so it was definitely not a trick of the dark. Also, just some extra information that I thought might be relevant. This year, I also have had the TV and computer turned on for no reason. Also, the lamp in my room has been turning on and off whenever I go in there to read. Number 4. First post here. Let me know if the flare or if the post should be directed to something else. I live on a big city student residency on a 9th floor with my sister as my roommate. That said, she's mostly traveling, so in practice, I pretty much live by myself. I always felt kind of uneasy, sometimes having anxiety attacks unprompted. But I only realized that it's not normal while I feel extremely secure in my hometown's house for the holidays as I type this. In my residency, I constantly feel watched and sometimes feel like something is tapping my shoulder, like someone would when trying to get your attention. It also is weirdly hot, and here even the windows open during Canadian winters. Even friends and family have found it overbearing. I also keep waking up every night between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. with immense anxiety, trying to hide myself in my bed sheets as I feel like something scary would happen if I looked around my room. Why I'm hesitating on calling that paranormal is because of two main things: hypersensitivity and restless leg syndrome. My autism makes me hypersensitive to sensory overstimulation, especially touch and hearing. I'm prone to anxiety attacks. Sometimes, even in my hometown, I get chills from subtle temperature changes and hear sounds my family doesn't. That said, it is more frequent in my residency and it feels so much more severe. I have restless leg syndrome, which used to wake me up about 4 times a night due to leg twitches. So I've always woken up around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. I've been medicated for half a year now, and it has improved enough that I only wake up a maximum once per night at 3 a.m. in my residence. And my hometown is pretty much gone. I sleep peacefully and feel secure. Is there a chance there might be something paranormal going on? Or might it be simply my hypersensitivity tricking my brain? Number 5, this story is kind of like an emergency story. This poster really needs some advice, so if anyone has any advice, please leave a comment down below. Thank you. When I was little, I don't remember much, so this is according to my mom, but this thing hasn't left me, so she told me the truth. I had a friend, an older woman about my mother's age at the time, 28-ish, would sit outside with me and watch me play. Even if my mom thought I was alone and she was outside with me, this woman would be there, and we talked a lot. As I grew up, I would see her out of the corner of my eye still, tall, around 5'6", and wearing a plain white but torn sundress or nightgown. As I grew older, she would show up out of the corner of my eye. I would suddenly feel dizzy and sick, like I just got punched in the gut. One night I fell asleep early, not something unusual, since I was watching my siblings and basically raising them during this time. I had a horrible nightmare of my siblings getting ripped apart by all sorts of demonic-looking things and terrifying secrets of others all around me. I woke up to find I was paralyzed and I could barely breathe. I thought it was a night terror and waited, but it was different. Air cold, even my 4 blankets wasn't enough to warm me. Then, from the shadows, the woman walked from the shadows. That's when I saw her face was melted together like someone had glued her face together and messed up. This is still happening to me, and my girlfriend has started seeing her too. We've been blessed by a priest and several other leaders in the religions, but so far nothing has helped. I wouldn't normally care, but recently my girlfriend and I have started waking up with very deep scratches that look like nails raked across our skin, but instead of nails, talons. We have 7 wounds each that need stitches. We're desperate for help, and she won't leave, and she's no longer harmless. We want to start a family, but with this thing now attacking us, we can't. Anything will help, if it means we can try whatever is suggested. Number 6, we live in a 125-year-old Victorian old home in a small town. The house was built by a doctor at the turn of the last century and has been expanded twice as his family grew. We renovated the house but kept as much as possible original or in the style with the original construction. I have insomnia and sleep in an extra bedroom regularly to give my wife some peace. Most nights, I read at night before turning off the lights. 2 nights ago, I heard footsteps coming from her room through a central room in front of my room to the kitchen while I was reading. Usually when she's in bed for the night, she's in bed, so it was odd. After a few seconds, the footsteps went back the other way. At that point, I thought, oh, she forgot her mobile phone in the kitchen. That made sense, really. She does charge her phone in 2 places. So that's how I processed it at that time. Our house has all pine floors and sits on a high crawl space. So there's a distinct sound when someone is walking in the old part of the house. Yesterday morning at breakfast, I told her I heard her get up and she looked at me all puzzled. She said, "Don't you remember? I got out of bed and got my phone when we were watching TV." I told her what happened. I even inspected our uninvited critters yesterday. What do you think?
I just need some advice, really, about what's been happening. So for some context, I moved into the flat I am now living in back in May of this year. I live alone in a 1-bed flat on a top floor, with one way in and out. Things started happening within the first couple of weeks of me moving. It would sound like there were footsteps coming up from my stairs into the living room, when there was no one there when I checked. At times they would stop when they reached the doors connecting my living room to my staircase. After about a month of living in this flat, we started decorating walls and putting in some storage in the attic. In the early mornings in the following 2 weeks, I would wake up with scratches all over my hands. I cut my nails till I practically had none, but yet it would still happen. After we were done with the work, everything settled back down, and it went back to the odd bump in the night, so to speak. Recently, I had a power cut, and was stood in my kitchen, looking out onto the main road, and could swear there was someone behind me, in the glass, but when I turned around, nobody was there. A week ago, I had woken up in the middle of the night, sat up in bed to the sound of what would have appeared to be someone running from the foot of my bed. Out of my door in a panic, I checked the rooms, and of course, found nothing. That weekend I had a friend staying over and woke up to find them gone, and ringing them, they told me they had woken up in the night to the sound of someone walking from my bathroom to the bedroom and thought it was me. Till they saw me sound asleep. They panicked and left at 3 in the morning. One night ago, I was sitting at my desk and heard a knock on my door as if there was someone trying to get in. It wasn't aggressive, but it was all one and the same. And of course, no one was at the other side of the door. I'm starting to worry more about my well-being and future in this place. I really find this place to be home. If anyone has any suggestions, please reach out to me.
That is it for these stories today. I hope y'all enjoyed. It is Christmas Eve, and at this time, I am probably cooking dinner for my family. I hope y'all have a lovely Christmas Eve and a safe Christmas Eve, and enjoy your family, please. Thank you to Lucid Lupus for being a guest on our channel. I'm so excited that he joined us today. I'm going to leave his link down below. Please go follow. I will see y'all tomorrow for Christmas. But until then, remember, it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross